I'm only getting started.
Hey everyone, Raceboy here again with another Forza Tips video, and this video is going to focus on assists and braking line is a lie. So first, I want to go through the assists. Now each assist has a good description on the right side of it, but I'm just going to go through with you guys real quick on some of these assists. So braking line or suggested line is obviously giving you a racing line or a braking line, or you can turn it off. This is kind of a general racing line. It's not always necessarily the fastest way to go around the track, and I will get into the braking aspect of it later. That's basically all the suggested line is. So ABS is basically, as you can see on the right, it automatically unlocks your brakes if you have it on. So if you hold down your trigger all the way, it'll kind of pulse the system to unlock your brakes as you try and lock them up, holding the trigger down all the way. I like to have it off just because it gives me more control over my car, and I feel that you brake stronger without it. You can use a higher brake pressure on your trigger with ABS off without it locking up. And of course, the more your tires skid, the slower you're going to go. So steering is an interesting one. Now I use simulation steering more for the challenge aspect of it. I like a good challenge, and simulation steering is definitely not easy, as some of you know who have tried it. There is a kind of thought that goes through the community these days where if you don't run simulation steering, you won't be able to set as fast of times if you're running normal steering. But that is, in my mind and in my experience, that's a myth. I believe that you can run just as fast with normal steering, and know lots of fast people who run normal steering. Simulation steering, basically the only point where you're going to notice it is on counter steering. Whether that's correcting a slide or going through a really tight chicane, you're going to notice it there. But if you're going through a tight chicane and you're on normal steering, all you have to do is turn a little bit earlier, or your car might be a little bit differently set up, that kind of thing. You can run just as fast with sim or normal, it doesn't matter, whatever your preference is. Traction and stability control, never ever have stability control on. There's pretty much no point to it. All it does is stop the rotation of your car. So if you're spinning out or something, it'll try and correct you, but sometimes if you're oversteering a lot, it'll also hinder your turning ability. For traction control, it's an interesting one. It's fought about throughout the community quite a lot. I personally have it off with every car I drive because I like the challenge, as I've said. Where traction control will come in handy is when you're running higher class or higher powered cars that are rear wheel drive. Those cars will generally run faster with traction control because it's almost like you're driving with perfect throttle control the whole time. It's not perfect, but it does help a lot, especially in faster cars or higher powered rear wheel drive cars. Never ever have traction on when you're running an all-wheel drive car, because basically that will hinder the car and its ability to exit corners so severely that it'll lead to understeer issues, it'll lead to lots of other issues, and you will just go considerably slower doing that. And also front-wheel drive cars, I found it to be a lot slower with traction on, just because front-wheel drive cars, the tires spin so significantly. It's better to just learn throttle control and be able to do that than using traction control. So on to shifting, manual with clutch. Definitely run manual in some form. If you can't get a hold of manual with clutch, I suggest you shift or you swap your A button to your clutch using the handbrake and clutch shifting, swapping on your controller layout so that your clutch goes from your left bumper to your A button. That makes it a little bit easier, so you can just hit A and B or A and X at the same time. Where this comes in handy is for most cars, manual with clutch will shift faster than manual. Now, when you get into race cars or cars with sequential gearboxes, manual is going to be basically, if not similar or the same as manual with clutch. You'll see in a lot of race cars, as I said, that the shift time will not be any different with manual. Damaged fuel and tire wear, I always have this on cosmetic. I don't really see much of a point unless you're going for full-on sim stuff. Make sure whenever you guys go into private lobbies that damage is set to cosmetic, because your assists will override the lobby settings. So basically, if you're in a lobby with cosmetic only damage settings and you go in with simulation damage settings, it will take your settings and you will be getting destroyed while no one else will be taking damage. So definitely have it on cosmetic whenever you go into a private lobby. Now rewind is exactly what that is, rewinding in a single player. I just have that on just in case something happens with AI or whatever else. Alright, so now I'm going to demonstrate ABS to you guys. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to run with ABS first, and I'm going to show you guys what happens, and then I'm going to run without ABS after, with the same pressure on the trigger, and show you guys what happens from there. So what's going to happen with ABS on is I'm going to push about 70% trigger, and then it will probably trip the tires a little bit under braking, and every skid makes you slower, so you have to watch out for that. So basically it's going to pulse the brakes as I brake, no matter how much my trigger is pushed in, and it's going to be a little bit slower in braking just because it's skidding the tires a little bit. So you saw those marks come up when I was braking. That was about 80% on the or 60% on the brake trigger. And each of those marks is a little bit of a skid, which increases my braking distance. So now I'm going to use no ABS and show you guys the difference. So basically, when I push down the brake trigger the same amount as when I used ABS, I'm not going to have any of those sliding marks, which means that I'm going to have a better braking distance and be able to stop quicker. Now, of course, with no ABS, if you hold down the trigger too far, you're going to lock up your brakes and all you're going to do is slide. So you want to avoid that. You don't have to hold down the trigger very far. You guys can go watch my braking tips video if you want more information on that. So as you guys saw, I started braking after I saw the tire marks, and I still ended right on top of them. That clearly shows that the braking distance is significantly shortened if you're running without ABS. So now I'm going to talk about the difference between sim steering and normal steering. So basically, as I said before, if you're running normal steering, the game is going to smooth out your counter steer for you in order for you to not wipe out or spin out based off of your inputs. Sim steering is basically a 1-to-1 ratio, and it will do what you were doing with your joystick. So if you're choppy with your joystick, which is hard not to do, running sim steering, if you're sliding at all and you counter steer, your car might spin the opposite way completely as soon as you counter steer, especially if you're not careful. With normal steering, your car is going to not spin out as easily because the game is smoothing out your inputs for you. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to go into the chicane and show you guys a little bit of the difference between sim steering and normal steering. Now first off, I'm running with normal steering. So basically you guys will just see that it's a little bit slower on the counter steer when I'm switching back to the right. So now I'm going to run sim steering, and what you guys will see is it turns a little bit quicker on the counter steer. So that's the main difference that you'll see when you're actually racing. Other than that, when you're correcting slides, you'll see a huge difference, and it'll be very hard to correct slides if you're not used to it with sim steering. As I said before, it's easy to run the same times with different steerings. It's all preference. A lot of fast people run sim, a lot of fast people run normal. But if you run normal and you're used to that, it's really hard to run simulation steering. So please be careful with that. And I suggest if you're going to try and learn sim steering, do not do it online because you will cause a lot of wrecks, and it won't be nice for everyone around you. Now I'm going to talk about shifting. First off, I want to stress, please do not run automatic if you can run otherwise. If you can only run automatic, then you'll figure out a way to deal with it eventually via gearing and transmission setup. But if you can run manual, please do run manual. You will be a lot faster doing it. It'll make a significant difference in your times. And if you can run manual with clutch, even better. So first off, I'm going to start off in manual. Now, basically, the difference between manual and manual with clutch, as I said before, is shift times. With this car, you guys will notice a big difference in shift times between manual and manual with clutch. And I'm going to demonstrate that real quick for you. Hear how slow it is? Now I'm going to show you guys manual with clutch. Now a big difference again with manual with clutch is it will be faster, but there are a couple other things that can come into play. One, you can stall your car with manual with clutch. Now what that means is sometimes if you're running certain cars, they will stall right off the line. So one way to avoid that is by hitting your clutch a couple times as you're launching. That should make your car start reasonably decently, as well as not being able to stall it. Another difference is it will not automatically rev match for you. Now if you guys want to know what rev matching is or more information on shifting, tips for that, go check out my shifting tips video. But that is another thing that changes when you switch over to manual with clutch. But your shifting will be faster in a car like this. When it comes to race cars, manual and manual with clutch, it'll be the same. See, it's significantly quicker on the shift with this car. Alright, now I'm going to talk about the braking line and the racing line. Now, the main thing to remember is that the braking line is a lie. Now, what that means is it's going to yell at you to brake at certain times, and you will not have to, sometimes at all, or sometimes you should be braking later, or sometimes you should only be letting off the gas. Now I'm going to demonstrate to you a couple things. One, the racing line isn't always correct. There are faster racing lines at times. It's normally pretty good though. And two, if the braking line is yelling at you to brake, that's not always the case. Now a way to get around that is basically experience. It comes down to experience. Knowing where you should actually have to brake, knowing where you can blow through the braking line. Also being able to run without the line is a very good skill. But I like to be able to turn on braking line in a lobby. That way I can tell when people are going to brake, if they're in front of me. I can have a heads up for that. I can also have another reminder just to kind of remind me not to blow through the corner, or remind me to brake if I'm not paying 100% attention or something like that. Because since it is a game, you don't get all those senses that you would at a normal racetrack while you're racing yourself. So it's never a bad thing to have another reference to brake from. Now personally, as I said, I can run fine without the brake line. I've done it for many racing series, many other things. Some of my times are set without the brake line, but I do prefer to have it online, turn it on, just so I can have that little extra help to know what people around me are going to do, and to have that little extra reminder so I don't end up crashing into anyone if I forget to brake. So what I'm going to do here is I'm going to bring out my power Volkswagen Scirocco. This car's got a lot of power, very fast. I'm going to show you guys how the braking line can be a lie and the racing line at the same time. So what you guys are going to see is on this next corner, you guys are going to see the braking line turn red, even here, and the racing line be way up at the top. Now, around this oval, you can debate, yeah, the high line can be fast, but in the game, it's not necessarily true. So it's yelling at me to brake, but why would I? I can just let off a little bit, and you want to hold down on the bottom. So it's yelling at me to brake, but of course, there's no reason to. I can hold that flat out on the exit. Here again. And if you guys have assisted braking on, which you should not ever, basically your car will brake for you because the line is telling you to brake. What assisted braking does is brake for you via what the line says. So it'll be braking all throughout that. Now another track that the braking line lies a lot on is Bathurst. Now basically you guys are going to see me blowing through a bunch of braking lines or brake a bunch, but then not as much as it should, not as much as it tells me or as much as it thinks I should. So sometimes I'll let off going into a corner even though it's red, but I know I have the speed that I can make it. And then sometimes I'll just completely blow through it. So you guys will see that through this next section. This isn't a car that I would normally run around this track, but I just wanted to showcase this beautiful paint again. So some corners are going to be right, but some corners you guys will definitely see me blow through the braking line. See, it's a little bit red there, but I'm still accelerating even though it is, using all the track. Just a little bit of let off there, even though it's yelling at me to brake. Same through here. Now last but not least, I'm going to show you guys a little bit of a run around NURB, just so you guys can get a gist of how bad it lies around this track. Now this track is the worst for the braking line as a lie. There are so many fast spots where you can absolutely blow through the line without braking at all. Now the problem with this is people who don't know about this, or who won't blow through the braking lines, or who think that the line is telling the truth and who follow it religiously, they will be braking on these sections, so you guys have to watch out for that. That's another reason to have the braking line on in a lobby, because you never know if these guys are, or if anyone's going to slam on the brakes right in front of you on a section where you can actually just hold it flat out. So the first corner is pretty good, but then it gets into some interesting stuff here. It's going to be yelling at me to brake through a lot of sections. All through there, it's telling me to brake a little bit. Through here, it's all red, pretty much. A little bit of yellow. On this crest, it normally tells you to brake a little bit on that crest, but it's not too bad. Definitely up this hill. If you're going fast enough, it'll tell you to brake big time. Little dab of the brakes, get around there without even breaking a sweat. Now if you're running a faster car, it'll tell you to brake going down here a little bit on this left-hander. And this part right up here is one where it really yells. Little dab of the brakes, turn in, make it around it. Didn't even need that dab of the brakes really. Now on this uphill coming up, it is one of the worst for braking line as a lie. You can go way further into it than it tells you with just about every single car. So thank you guys so much for watching this video. Hopefully it'll help you out to learn about assists and about the braking line and how it's a lie, and you can blow through a lot of points on it. Don't forget to subscribe, check out my Twitch channel and the rest of my social media stuff. Thank you guys for watching, and have a wonderful day.